Hey guys, welcome back to One Candle Paranormal Case Files. Here with your hosts, Marcus D.
and Vic Whaley. And set your TV to channel Paranormal, because today we're tuning into the Static People. An encounter with a static person is my very first paranormal encounter. I was in first grade, I believe, and I had spent the morning working outside in the barn, handling the horses with my parents. About noon, we decided to come back in because we're all exhausted. And as young enough, I still would sometimes take naps with my parents. So we went to their bedroom, and I just kind of laid down to sleep in between them, and they both fell asleep pretty quick, and I fell asleep shortly after. And a bit after that, I woke up, and I wasn't really sure why I woke up. But I sat up, and I looked at the foot of the bed, and rising up from the foot of the bed was just a human silhouette of a man composed entirely of static. So I just froze. And I was staring at it. It just slowly rose up, almost like a two-dimensional figure or a cutout of a person that someone was hiding under the bed, just feeding it up. And after it got fully up there, I didn't know what to do. I tried to wake up my parents, but they wouldn't wake up, and I ended up just hiding under the covers. Eventually, I looked back out, and it was gone, and that was my very first paranormal encounter.
Now, Vic's story about encountering a static person is very similar to stories that people have reported when they see static people. Number one, they're just often there. Unlike stories involving ghosts or shadow people in which they're doing something or they think that they're being watched for a particular reason, static people are often just there in the background. Another peculiar thing, anybody who's ever watched the static on a TV because their parents didn't have cable can always remember that crinkling sound that comes with watching static on TV. Well, even though people are reporting seeing static people that look like they're made up of static from the TV, they don't make any sound. The strangest thing that I have found about static people, of all the stories I've ever found, people often associate them with static from the TV. But I've yet to ever actually see anybody make a report of a static person coming out of a TV, which is something you would think there'd be at least one of. When I approach looking at the paranormal, I always like to collect as many stories as I can, because when you collect as many stories as you can, you get a better representation of what the general story is and what the paranormal entity probably is. And it's just so striking to me that in all of these stories that we've seen, there are no reports of these static people coming out of the TV, even though they're often associated with looking at the TV. But even if there are some, there's so few of them.
Yeah, it seems that there's very few encounters with static people, and it made the research somewhat difficult on this. I can only assume perhaps it's a rare phenomena? As an interesting side note, what static is pretty interesting. It's not just what's on the TV when you're in between channels or something along those lines. It's ambient radiation left over from the Big Bang, and is one of the best evidences for the occurrence of the Big Bang. So what static is an echo of creation itself.
And here I thought it was just a constant reminder your TV's not working.
Nope, echo of the Big Bang.
Yeah, I still don't feel it, but I still feel like it's like my TV not working. An important question: are static people actually a new phenomenon? There's countless stories of ghosts, shadow people, cryptids, all those sorts of things that are sort of passed along the generations. But with static people, and you look at stories that people are telling, it's not my mom saw this, it's not my grandmother saw this. It seems to be very personal stories that people are actually telling me. So since these are all first-person stories, it makes me believe that this is a more modern paranormal entity. I don't know, what do you think, Vic?
Well, one of the things I'd say is, if you think about it, we don't know how people would even describe it if they were from a time period that predates modern television, because they would have no point of reference on what static is, so I'm not sure what words they'd use. Although there haven't been any sightings of them coming out of TVs, if we go with there is a connection, there's something else that we can add on to that part. TVs, as I've mentioned in previous videos, are effectively black mirrors, and black mirrors are used for scrying and as portals, almost always to darker planes of existence or darker places of reference. And supposedly, things can come through these portals. If you want a historical point of reference, check out John Dee's Black Mirror. So Marcus, what are your thoughts on it?
In conclusion, everybody always describes them as TV static. To me, somehow I think it still has to come back to TVs. When I think about how people often describe where ghost comes from, it's a lingering presence of a person that's passed on. You know, something that's left behind. When I think about what TV is, it's a piece of a person that's being transferred from one spot to our televisions. They're transferring people's emotions on TV. They're transferring actors' images on TV. I think when you're transferring that from one place to another, maybe something falls off along the way. And an important thing to know about how TV works, as far as I know, and I could be wrong, let me know in the comments, audio and visual is sent on two different wavelengths. So maybe that's why we're not hearing anything often with the static people, is because we're just seeing these echoes or TV ghosts, I guess, images of people that are struggling to come through, I guess. I don't know. That's my best shot at it.
What I think is this is some sort of disguise. That this isn't what it actually is. It's something that whatever the entity is using to mask its true form. When you see one, they almost appear very two-dimensional. I think whatever we're seeing is not what it actually is. Now, whether that is aliens, some sort of apparition, or anything else, I just have this strong feeling that it's blocking off what something actually is. But I'm sure you guys have your own thoughts, and why don't you tell us in the comments. Hey guys, thank you for tuning in to our most recent One Candle Paranormal Case File.
Yeah, we were really happy to talk about this paranormal entity. You know, static people is something that there are stories of them out there, but nobody really seems to talk about them in the paranormal world. And we just think that it's an interesting entity that you guys should be aware of.
And this isn't our first time talking about static people. It actually came up in an interview with Knock Once for Yes, where they had also had an encounter with a shadow person.
Yeah, Lil and Fritz from Knock Once for Yes. It was in episode 7 of their podcast, which we're going to put in the description below a link to their website and to their YouTube channel so you guys can check it out, because you should definitely check out their podcast. They also give really, really great paranormal content for you guys to check out. But don't forget, keep believing.
Because we'll keep listening.